I do believe we are live. We're back with another Weekly Fix Live. Gary, there has been a little bit of chaos on my computer this week. Last week it was yours, but we're here.
So we're here. We made it. You know, that's the thing with doing live shows, right? We just got to roll with the punches and do what we got to do. No fancy countdown today, but we're here, which is the most important thing, right?
That's right. Hey, well, I can say we've got two amazing guests, two amazing women in Web3. I'm super stoked to speak with String and speak with Rae. We're going to have some music today.
Yes.
I'm so glad that it started because now I just get to enjoy the next 45 minutes, hour long, whatever. I'm here for it.
It's going to be cool. I'm excited too. You know, I actually get to be in a full show today instead of just a partial show last week, you know, with me pulling the computer off the desk. So today I made sure that the door was closed. I make sure I told my office staff that I'm in here doing my thing. So yeah, uninterrupted. It'd be great.
Well, let's start off with some news then. I know you sent me a couple links in Slack just a little bit ago.
Yeah.
What's happened I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'm excited about coming up at the end of this week, but what's happened up into this point from last week?
So two subjects I want to talk about. Actually, two different things. But first, let's talk about this Ben Dow.
Right.
You know, it's really interesting. I heard about this. Yesterday I think I saw it, and then I saw an article today. And what the Ben Dow does is a lending platform that allows you to borrow money against your NFT. So you put your NFT up as collateral. You borrow ETH against it, Ethereum against it, and then you can go do what you need to do. And so you have people that are depositing their ETH into the DAO. You have people that are drawing it against their NFTs. And I guess it's been working okay. Well, with the crash of our space, which has been rough over the last few months, and the crash of floors, they're finding liquidity issues in the DAO itself. And the fact that there's been more borrowing than there's been depositing, and with that, and then the crash of the floor and a lot of these NFTs that were utilized as collateral, BAYC was one that they used as an example in here. It's creating a liquidity issue, and it's causing the holders of the NFTs to be liquidated of their NFT. So, you know, you get a dual negative effect here. One, the floor's dropping. The NFTs get liquidated through the DAO, through this lending platform. And then when they get liquidated, of course, those get dumped on the floor because they need to create liquidity to bring back into the DAO. And it's just creating this cascading effect. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this platform. And I know in a bear market, it's probably a great thing because people just expect this escalation, right? This upward movement of their NFT as far as up and to the right. And the next thing you know, we get in a bull market. Next thing you know, we get a bear market, and the bear market is going the opposite, and it's creating some liquidity issues. So I'm real curious to see how this lending protocol goes, and to see if anybody else is thinking about doing the same. I know that there's some stuff on the crypto side similar to this. I don't know of any other maybe there is some out there, any other DAO or any other platform that's doing this against NFTs. But yeah, man, the bear market's hurting, and it's hurting in more ways than one.
Luckily, we've got a couple guests that have some good stuff to bring to the table, because I know even just inside the Bulls Names project, some of the stuff that we've been doing in this seemingly like it's just like a savage market, right? It's just there's carnage everywhere and all that, and yet we're building all this new stuff. I love seeing the people in music Web3 right now that are just breaking down walls and just kind of blazing a trail for other people to follow behind. So super glad that we have Rae here so we can ask her about that and what her experience has been. But I could just tell you. Go ahead. And
no, go. Before we bring a guest, I'll bring something else up.
So String's got some stuff going on that I've been watching her from I would say from afar, but not really. Like every time she's posted anything up, I'm following along, because I think where people are missing out right now is that there are a few people that are doing really cool stuff. That's not based on, everything's booming, it's a bull market, everything's coming easy, but they're really being strategic, and they're doing things. Oh man, I can't wait to dive into stuff with String, but they're using Web 2 in ways that even people that are big in Web 2 aren't using it. Right. And they're tying their Web 3, their IP, their communities, all of that. in with that. I can't tell you how excited I am every time I see somebody excited to share an animated GIF unicorn, and I look and I'm like, that's a chubby corn, and they don't even know it. And they're just stoked, and that's all stuff that String has brought to the table. So we'll dive into that to offset some of the sad news. But
I know sad.
Any other noteworthy stuff?
Yeah, something positive I actually wanted to bring up. This is something that I thought was interesting because you talk about, what's happening with Web 2 outside of, Web 3 and is there any crossover? So Heidi Klum, hopefully everybody knows who Heidi Klum is, famous supermodel. She's got her show, Next Top Model, I forget what network it's on. But she's actually doing some NFT artwork now, which is kind of interesting. We hear a lot about one-of-one artists taking their one-of-one art creations and converting them into NFTs to bring them into Web3, looking for that bridge to come into the NFT space. And it's really cool. You get a chance to purchase a cool piece of art, and then you get an NFT that mimics that artwork or complements it, and they can be sold in conjunction with one another. Well, Heidi Klum is doing something different. She's actually a pretty well-known artist in her own right, in IRL and in the real world. She's done some sculptures and some art, but she connected with an owner of a BAYC, multiple BAYCs, and she's taken 10 BAYCs and she's actually repainting them and recreating them. So she's actually doing the reverse. She's taking this cool art from Web3 and she's bringing it into in real life, which I think is cool. And what I think is really cool about this is I already know of somebody that's doing this. Pinkzilla, who is part of the Bulls Names project, has actually been doing this for quite a few months. And she's done some amazing also artwork with BAYC. She's done some mutant apes, and she's done some other reverse art where she's taking Web3 into the in real life aspect. So it's cool that I see Heidi Klum doing this, because I was like, man, I know somebody that's doing this exact same thing. So I'm curious if more artists are going to actually start looking at the art in the Web3 space and looking at NFTs and saying, you know what, I can actually bring some real life to this. And instead of just maybe doing a print and hanging on your wall from your NFT, maybe doing something that has a little bit more of an artist flair to it, or an artist take on that art, and creating something that's also unique. So I think that was really cool, and just wanted to bring up because I thought it was fun to do that reverse.
The last thing that I wanted to bring up too, because that it literally plays into the next thing I was thinking about. So Snapchat has had their AR filters for a while, and you think of AR, augmented reality, and you think about like NFTs and metaverse and all, and it seems like they all go together. And for some reason, like very few people are doing like practical use of NFT stuff. Specifically, in my case, what I think is the big opportunity is the AR masks. Like if you've got, especially with us, like, hey, I'm going to call us out. We've got 3D bowls. How come I don't have a 3D bowl AR mask? Like I could have it on right now on this stream and be talking and with the face moving and all that. So I think there's a lot of stuff there, because I've been seeing Snapchat has been, they've been going out of their way to make sure that those ads are being put in front of people like us that are in the Web3 space. So I'm really excited to see what happens with, taking Web3 stuff and pulling it back out and then making that available to the masses. And again, that's what String's doing. So that's going to be awesome. Cool. I would lie if I would say I'm not more excited to listen to some beautiful music than me and you talk right now, because we talk all the time. But we've got Rae here. She is she's gonna open us up for the conversation as we do week by week, and I'm super glad to have another musical artist here, and then we're gonna chop it up with her. So I think without further ado, everybody, I'm gonna bring in Rae Isla, and here she is. Hello, friend.
Hello, friends. I'm learning a lot, to be honest with you. So,
well, Rae actually said, she asked me earlier when we were talking. She was like, "Hey, can I ask you some questions about the Bulls and Apes stuff?" And I was like, "Whoa, really? Like, yeah, I'm always an open book for that. But maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But for now, Rae, I understand you got a song for us. I'm here for it. Let's go.
Let's go right into it. Yeah, this is a song. It's called Downpour. I've done it in a few Twitter Spaces. It's not released anywhere, but it will be a part of an upcoming drop in the fall, where Web3 people are going to get access to parts of my new album before anybody else. So this is even pre that. This is like sneak preview sort of thing.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
It's called Downpour. It's gonna rain today, so stay inside. Carve out a new river vein in the countryside. Take me to the ocean where I can float away. Soak in my devotion for 100 days. I don't need to read the weather report. I already know it's a downpour. My love is a downpour. So bring your umbrella, 'cause I'm gonna soak you, and I'm gonna drown Old times, memories, they can move to open a vacancy in my mind for you. So burn bright or set aside, you can choose. Waking, sleeping, I'll come for you. I don't need to read it to believe it, 'cause I've seen the storm before. No, I don't need to read the weather report. I already know it's a downpour. My love is a downpour. So bring your umbrella, 'cause I'm gonna soak you, and I'm gonna drown you.
Let's go.
That's awesome.
Rad.
I love it.
Thank
I
you.
love that we get to sit and do this. This is the coolest thing. Just
I
on
know.
a Monday. No big
Great
deal.
way to kick off a Monday, huh? I mean, I love it. And I've heard you on Spaces before, but I tell you, we had this conversation a while back. It's so much different and so much more personal when I can actually watch you sing versus just listening to you on Spaces, which is awesome. But I love the aspect of being able to watch you sing and watch you perform. So into your music, passionate about it. I love it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, there was a moment, I think like 10 seconds in, where I was like, oh my God, this isn't a Twitter space. And I sort of was like, oh my God. It's so funny. Most of my performing right now is in Twitter spaces, which is wonderful, but it's nice to, have the exchange.
Yeah. To have that.
How many
connection.
times would you say you've actually performed live now on Twitter Spaces? If you could just put a random number to it.
In the hundreds. I mean, hundreds and hundreds.
Wow.
I have no
It's
idea.
so crazy.
This is a range, but between 250 to 500 times.
Wow.
And that's in the last, oh God, I don't know, guys. I don't even know what day it is most of the time.
That's so funny. You know, it's funny. I think Gary, you could appreciate this. Something that I hear, like I've got a lot of buddies that are in like racing and car stuff, right? But they'll go to the track, and one of the biggest things for them to progress and to learn and to get their craft or get better at what they're doing is seat time, which is literally just being at the track, just getting seat time. And it's so hard for people, at least in that space, to actually have everything set up. But the fact that you basically get seat time with performing live in front of a ton of people with a couple pushes of a button. We talked before this and it was like, you could set up all these crazy mics and do all this stuff, or you could just kind of like go with the mic that you got and perform live. And you'd told me you'd rather have the performance be the thing that's dope and dialed in than to just worry about so many of the other little details. Like, do you feel like that's helped you as an artist a lot, just all those live performances?
Definitely. I mean, I think it's like shifted my perspective entirely, which is that I don't know who is the force that's telling this to musicians. Maybe it's just ourselves, but we have this idea that like, if everything isn't perfect and you don't have the most expensive microphone and the most expensive and the best and the best and the best, then you're not good enough or something. And I think playing in Twitter Spaces has really just made me realize that you don't need all that stuff. In fact, maybe all that stuff gets in the way of the real connection because you're distracted with everything being perfect. You actually don't show up 100% for the performance. So that's been a learning. And I'm like, thank God, because whatever I was doing before, I was always stressed performing, like constantly. And I think it stopped me from completely being present for it. So, yeah.
That
I
is
love
so
that.
cool. Yeah, that is awesome.
So what pulled you into this? Like what's our origin story? I love to ask that. Like, where did you come from? What planet? What what brought you here to
What
Earth
brings
with
you
us?
to Web3, right? Especially into Web3,
Right.
and being a musician and saying, "Oh, I'm going to go into spaces and perform for the NFT community."
Well, we do all have the origin story. Let's see. Well, I'll start with saying that the first time I ever heard music NFTs or anything talked about where it clicked and I was like, oh, I should listen. I should stop ignoring and actually listen to what's going on, was in February. I don't know why I opened Twitter because I wasn't using Twitter much before. I had a Twitter, but I opened it for some reason one day and saw a little space. I'm like, what's a Twitter space? And clicked on it. And it happened to be Violetta. And she was talking about, and she was about a month in, so she was still relatively fresh, but she was talking about the stuff. And I don't know what she said, but something she said just made it click for me. And interestingly enough, I was living in Mexico City for the last year recording a studio album, which was a dream come true because I lived in New York before and I felt like a lot of my music making was like very fragmented. You know, we'd make a song on the weekend, then we make another one like that. But I was living in this beautiful big house next door to this commercial recording studio, making an album, living the album. Like I woke up and we'd work on the album. And that was what I was doing for my life. And in the middle of all that, I was like, you know, I really don't know what's going to happen once we make this thing. Like, I don't want to sign. That doesn't look like a good path. And the music industry is a total mess because of COVID. So I was in this mindset where I was like, I'm just making this music because I know it needs to be made. And I don't care what happens afterwards. I don't have a plan for that. And I don't need one. And in the middle of that came Web3 and everything just clicked. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, not only am I making the best music of my life, but I know exactly what to do with it now. And I think that really fueled me to finish the project, you know, at maybe even better than had I not had that plan. And I finished recording in June and since then have been full-time DJing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, is your whole album going to be released as an NFT? How are you releasing that album? What's the plan?
That's a great question. And I have not told anyone this yet. So I think this is going to be an alpha-y discussion today because I do want to talk about this, but it's tough when you just get like a couple minutes in a Twitter space.
Right.
But my plan, so I have a couple more releases coming out, I guess, to talk about my like NFT journey. I did my Genesis drop was on August 2nd and it sold out pretty quickly. And then my second drop was last week on August 16th and we doubled the quantity last minute to 20 and that sold out very quickly as well, which was exciting. And then there'll be some one-of-ones and some special projects that I've been working on, but I'm going to do a big drop in the fall And my plan is to almost treat the album like a series of EPs, because there's a story and all of the songs are connected, and the way that I'm releasing everything is connected. And once you see it all, you'll get it, you know? So the first drop that we're doing is going to be a bigger drop, not as big as like Violetta's, not thousands. And it will have part of the album attached to it. And the reason I'm doing that is, you know, I don't want to just drop like 12 songs, because I want people to really savor, you know, each segment of the story. But it's also great because for me, like, I decided a long time ago to make albums and build worlds, which is, you know, a big endeavor. And in order to build the visual world and tour and merch, this vision that I have for the album, I need more resources. So like, honestly, before I discovered Web3, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get a full-time tech job and grind and just do that and like stop music to gain the resources to continue music. But that's not what artists are supposed to do. Like quit for a year and then lose all that like feeling and momentum. So this first big drop is going to fund everything else. And then whoever, you know, apes into the first drop will get access to everything else. It'll just be rolled out in like a very orchestrated way. So that's the plan.
So that's a cool plan. That's exciting. And it's exciting that you found a way to have control over your own music, right? I mean, if you're going through a label or if you were, you know, working with somebody else, they would have control over how your music's released, over, you know, what the content is. It seems like, I mean, I know there's been platforms out there for artists in the Web2 space that you could, you know, create your own music and sell your own music, you know, via some of these platforms. But the Web3 space really does open up a whole different dynamic, a whole different world. You say worlds, right? But it is a whole different world for you to explore and to have 100% control over how you release your music, when you release your music. And the audience you want to release your music to, because I mean, you're going out and going to specific Twitter spaces that you feel or you're connecting with. So you have literally a 100% control over your art that way.
It's an amazing feeling. Yeah. And I think, you know, you mentioned just like that there were similar tools in Web 2, but I always felt that the tools available to us, like they were fragmented in that there were tools for building an audience and community, and there were tools for building customers, right? Or whether that was like the customer was the label or whatever. Like there's Kickstarter and there's Instagram, and they have nothing to do with each other. But Web3, all of my efforts and my storytelling and my energy, I'm building something that is no longer fragmented. The customers are the community, are the founders, are the investors, are the music lovers, are the collaborators. It's incredible. So, you know, I'm no longer like putting on a different hat for each social media platform. I can be myself without having to like hide parts of it for whoever's listening. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And what I think is really cool, something you just said, you know, you used the word investors. You know, when as a, you know, somebody that buys music, if I go onto a platform, you know, Spotify, or I mean, any of the platforms to buy, I'm buying music, and where's it going? It's going to a producer, it's going to a label. If I buy your NFT, I know that the money I'm spending is going directly back to you to then utilize to create more music, to bring more music to me as a holder. I think that's really cool, because as somebody that wants to buy music, not that I have a say, because I don't, because this is your journey and you have control, but I have a part in it, a real tangible part in it, you know, and I can look at it and go, wow, I was part of that journey and I participated, which is a connection that we don't get with artists outside of the Web3 space. And whether that's artists that are doing true art, you know, with our NFTs, one-of-one artists, or musical artists like yourself, there's no place anywhere that we have that kind of connection with an artist like yourself. No place.
That's good to hear, because I mean, you're like, I wasn't even aware of so much of that perspective, that as much as things were missing for me, like so much was missing, it was also those same things were missing for the listener, for the music appreciator. Like, and we didn't even realize it because there was so much BS in the middle. There's so many people in the middle separating us from, you know, our mutual interests.
That's so crazy.
Here we are.
Here we are.
As you were talking, you were, you know, talking about building worlds and bringing people along for the journey, and the different facets, like the different people that are along for that, and how there's different people that are gonna they're different places in their journey, their personal journey, but then they get to go on you from where you're at and what you're sharing with them. And everybody gets to kind of be part of this thing, all with different angles from it. As you guys were talking about that, especially the different worlds, I was literally seeing in my head the stuff that I want to talk about right now as I bring on String. She has done an amazing job of creating this whole universe. She literally calls it the Chubbiverse because, and I'll let her tell her own story, but I can just tell you, I didn't understand NFTs and I didn't understand why Gary Vee was talking about it. I didn't understand the community aspect or any of these things. I certainly didn't understand building worlds. And it was until a friend reached out and literally said, hey, let me tell you about this thing that I've built, these worlds and these communities that I've built, and broke it down with me and then spoon fed me all the things. Here's how you start a MetaMask and download Brave browser and do this. And bit by bit, she just fed me the little tiny chunks that I needed so that I could get involved in Web3 and told me her story. That person was String. And my Web3 like career at this point was 100% based on that specific pivot. So I want to bring in my friend String here. And first off, say hi. I'm so glad that you got to join us.
Hi, String.
But
Good day.
Can you tell us a little bit, String, just what world building means to you, and how that has been kind of a part of your journey?
Well, you know how there's a meme. I love memes, by the way, and I love fried chicken. So you have to know anything about me, and you have to slide into my DMs just for a fried chicken. It's like, oh, we could be friends. Or like even feet. Like sometimes I go to meetings and people will throw fried chicken at me just because they want to win me over. But that's how you win me over. I'm like the easiest going person if you just throw me fried chicken. But I have to say, like, when I introduced you to NFTs, I could see your eyes like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
yeah, totally.
And also, I'll be honest, I don't know anything as well. Like I'm still on my curious journey because we're so early on. I feel like no one knows what the fuck they're doing, but that's the fun part.
Yeah.
I always say like the fun part is not knowing what's going on. So if you're like a creator, an early innovator, or someone who just wants to be part of the Wild West and want to build something, then this is the perfect time to enter. So NFT to me is just like a ticket to enter the Wild West called the Metaverse. And to tell the truth, people always say Metaverse this, like fried chicken is Metaverse, potato is Metaverse, Snapchat is Metaverse, LinkedIn is Metaverse, Instagram is Metaverse, Meta is Metaverse. Everyone's throwing the word Metaverse because that's a hot new word. But what is the Metaverse? No one knows. But I feel like we're already inside the Metaverse right now, where we're just hanging out with friends. We're living online already. COVID kind of exponentially accelerated that experience where we're hanging online now. So we're like kids, if you look at Roblox, even what else do they play? Like everything that they're doing right now is like online already.
Yep.
So they're ready. You probably know that, Chris. Like you have kids.
Yep.
Gary, you have kids?
Yes, they're all adults. I have my youngest is getting ready to go to college. You're going to be an empty nester here pretty quick, but yeah.
Yeah, but I bet you like he play games with friends and they talk shit and talk the crap.
It's true.
Online.
We're in the metaverse right now. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, we're having a conversation. We're in different parts of the world. We're conversing live. This must be the metaverse, right?
We were at a concert in the metaverse a minute ago, just in case you didn't catch that.
Yeah. And everyone's waiting for this 3D tool, but I feel like that's the difference is like, what's the difference between the blockchain or the Web3? It's the only thing is like, it's ownership and ownership in terms of like, you know, there is some kind of like incentives and financial incentives as well. There is like a lot of speculation because like people we haven't found our status quo equilibrium right now. There's no rules being made. So it just goes like this.
Right.
Tell me about this that was Chubby Corns. Where did that come from? And you created this whole world, this whole ecosystem. Where'd that come from?
So my Space Pixel was he's the CTO of the Chubbiverse right now and the CFO. He's the one that pulled me over and was like, String, you need to come over because everything you love, creativity, community, in entrepreneurship and innovation is all in there in NFT. So I was like, okay, I need to get in. I was working on my own startup actually to help other creators leverage LinkedIn and be online creators and professionals be online creators, because I feel like that's like the way the trend was going. But then I got down the rabbit hole of NFTs and created Chubbicorns. So you know how in the startup world there's always like the hipster, the hacker, and the hustler. I'm always the hipster. Rae is definitely the hipster in this case, and I think Gary is the hustler, and Chris is the hipster, like, you know, the marketer, the growth person. But I'm usually the hipster, but this time I switched gears and like brought in the like my hustler hat in and like leverage my network. And it's like, okay, I have like artist friends, I'm just go ping them, and I'd like pinged 10 people, but only one kind of like pinged back, and then they showed me a whole list of characters, and then Space and I just picked up like that corn, because we were thinking the thesis was the new trend would be like, oh, Pudgy Penguin is booming right now. There's going to be a cute narrative. So we're very data driven, as you can tell. And then it's like, hey, we got to do cute images, because it's going to be, in the long run, we want something family friendly, because we notice like there's a lot of guys there. And that, you know, if we think of the trend of Hello Kitty, we know cute would like last. So we developed these Chubbicorns, 250 Chubbicorns in 2 weeks. First it was 100, and it's like, no, we need to develop the Dunbar number where the community, like 250 is a good size. If you do a collection, Rae, I suggest doing 100, because then that's when, or 250, because then 250 will get you 100 followers or active members.
Right.
And 100 will set you, like, there's this theory on 100 super fans, not 1,000, but 100 super fans.
I've seen that floating around.
And if you get 100 super fans, you're set. You could be full time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that happened. So we, with that thesis, with that experiment, 250 Chubbicorns was uploaded, and within 5 days we have community market fit. Like, usually like crazy, right? So I find that like because of that momentum, we have to double down. We double down on memes, we double down on the community. We created a viral machine with our community, because like the super fans act like an extension of the viral machine. And we were able, then Chubbicorns eventually became like a rich man's toy or rich girl's toy.
When did Steve Aoki perk up and pop in and say, ooh, Chubbicorn? How long did that take?
Yeah. Oh, I think towards the 4th month mark, when we were like at the all-time high, which was like 18 ETH at one point. And then like now it's like Chubbicorns is about 8 ETH, because we just like had like a cute meta yesterday. So like, I'm just throwing numbers, but it's just because like people use floors as a way to like, to tell the truth, sometimes I feel like that's a weird way of measuring success, because
I agree.
I think that's a distraction of it. But like people are doing that because there is some kind of financial incentives being with NFTs, and because like we are so early days, the dopamine hit comes from that a bit. So I thought that was a weird, but then I have to accept the fact it's just part of the process of being the early of like doing things. So we did that, and within 2 months we noticed it's like, hey, we got momentum. For us to build up a brand, 250 is not a viable thing, especially if you want to grow something huge. So we launched and doubled down on our momentum, got my team going. And it's like, hey, we need to, I pulled them, I pushed them. It's like, hey, we need to do a bigger collection of 8,888 chubby friends. And we launched in 2 months and sold out in 1 day.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. And they're cute too. So String asked me, she's like, show your boys a couple. She had a wallet with a few of these that were in her personal wallet. And she was like, yeah, just see which one speaks to the kids. And my little guy, he picked a little cat with a bowl on his head. He's a little bowl cat. He's adorable. And he's farting a little rainbow fart.
Yeah. My 6-year-old nephew gave us that. The thing is like, you're vomiting rainbow, but why aren't you farting them too?
Yes.
Rainbow.
So
that's my PFP. I got to check that out now. That's Yes, I love the rainbow. I love anything, any art that's out there is rainbow. I have a question actually for you, String. So you'd mentioned, you made a comment about floor, and I agree with you 100%. But in your experience, what do you think is the best metric for a project to measure success? I know everybody looks at floor; they want to see the floor price rise because people come in, and if the floor is flat, and I think a lot of projects are dealing with this right now because of where the overall space is. We're in this bear market. And it can kind of turn people off to jump into a project. And the first thing they automatically do is, well, let's see where the floor is, because all they're thinking is their monetary gains potentially by buying in. What do you see as a project founder as the best metric? And what have you done to combat that, negative connotation of floor price, right?
Our community is pretty good. Every time someone talks about the floor, we just send them stickers, and then they giggle, and then they just stay there for good vibes. But I usually look at the time duration of things. People always look at the moment of time,
right?
But you have to look at the longevity of a project, because how a project talks about the volume. I look at the volume over time, because we have a reputation of rugging as well. Even if you're docs, doesn't mean necessarily you're a good founder or someone who's sophisticated. You just need to look at the volume over time. So we have a confidence that we will deliver. So even though we're building and then it spikes, and we're very good at viral marketing or understanding where the hype is. But if you look at the time, that's when that's an essay of the durability of that collection. And Haji Penguin is a good example as well. They probably started at the start, but they're still quite active. And then they just sold the iconic left looking for 400 ETH as well.
Wow.
So it kind of shows the longevity of it. And they had lots of drama around them, but then you could tell they were growing success because they got acquired by this guy named Luca, and now he's you could see the trajectory of success as well. So I look at the duration of time, because that's the essay of hey, are they a good collection or not?
It's so weird. I feel like the world that I came from, and String, me and you met because of Clubhouse, and I'd be in room talking about YouTube and stuff all the time. But even just now, earlier today, I was looking at the metrics, the analytics on a video that I posted on YouTube a couple years ago. And it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't it went viral and everybody saw it or whatever. But the interesting thing was looking exactly like you were saying right now, just looking at the graph, it was a slow kind of upward growth for a really long time. And then for some reason, 2 years after it was posted, in June of 2022 now, right? It was posted, in I think earlier than that in 2020. This thing's just going, and all of a sudden, even after 2 years, it just hockey sticked. And just all of a sudden, the thing just shoots up. And I'm curious for somebody like Rae, who's putting out, she's putting out music, and she's putting out these projects and these NFTs that are attached to that. How that has looked over the course of time, where it's the slow, steady, and then the hockey stick after. Are you seeing a lot of that stuff now, where things are older and they're popping, or is it more just an overall, just that steady length of it is the numbers come from that?
So I always look for the what is the next meta, not meta Facebook, but meta in terms of what's could be the next trend, and we need to ride those waves. And that's you probably notice that. I think TikTok does a great job with the algorithm of knowing what's trending. I think what was the Minions, when it went viral, everyone would talk about it. So that's the trend that you have to leverage on TikTok, right? If you could grasp that, and that's when you could ride that wave. I talk about these things because that's how we were able to do it. But for early creator, people think that we were an overnight success, but they haven't realized Chris probably worked 8 years. I was working 10 years stacking my skills. From being a 9 to 5, I hated it, but I did it to make my mum happy. That's a typical story, how Asian girl want to make her mum happy. But also I realized that there's more to life than just being a 9 to 5er, and I wanted to be creative, so I had to be true to myself. So I was super authentic about it and followed my things. But I realized just because I'm an artist, I could get what was it? scammed or not looked after properly, because there's always someone who has better incentives or better negotiations. So I learned how to market myself better. And because of that, I was able to get more eyeballs and travel around the world. And then I realized, like, oh shit, I need to fix up my financials literacy as well. So I stacked that up. It's like, oh, I want to be a startup founder. But I noticed like startup founders need more skills. So I just stacked it up. And because of that, I was ready for the Chubbiverse. And now we have a great treasury where we're just building now. And I'm pretty bullish and confident about where we are. Like, I feel like my VC friends is waiting for me to do something else.
That's so. The fact that you could get stock in String, or you could get stock in Rae, like that. I mean, that's basically what this is betting on the jockey. Is like, you guys are doing amazing thing, and the women in Web3 that are going after it hardcore is like, it doesn't. You're just badass humans in Web3. That's the most important part. But I love seeing it, and I love that earlier, Rae, you were saying, instead of the, earn up all the money and then get all the things, the boxes checked, and then dive in, you're like, no, I need to just do this now. Like, do it like as you go through it. That's what I heard String say right now. I think
you just need to do it. You were saying, Rae, I felt like
no, I'm nodding along. I'm like, yeah, agree with everything. But no, I think I was just speaking earlier about, especially in music, like, the music and the business, at least in my experience, have been so fragmented. And I think that's because independent artist founders, we've been told that you shouldn't touch the business. And we've been like, really, honestly, like brainwashed that you shouldn't touch the business, because if I don't know the business, then somebody's doing the business. Somebody is monetizing if you're not, if you're creating consistently. So, and I studied music business. So I always had this, like, this doesn't feel right, in all these like business deals and conversations. And I guess what I was speaking to earlier is like, you have to move forward with your business and your creativity at the same time. And until Web3, those two were paths that didn't align. They were parallel paths. And now they've converged to this like great big open road, the new frontier, the new West, or whatever, where you can have a conversation with someone and actively grow both sides of your endeavor, versus waiting on one, doing the other, waiting on one. So yeah, that's been just wonderful not to have to put something on hold, because I'm totally separate.
Yeah, Taylor Swift is killing it in business. Rihanna is killing it in business, but she's not stuck in just music itself. They just leverage their audience to somewhere else. And the audience is key here as well. And that's where the community comes into play with Web3, because it's like they have such strong ownership. Like, your biggest super fans want you to succeed, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm feeling it already, even just from the initial drops. And yeah, I don't know. But I was just really nodding along to everything y'all were saying, and relatable and inspiring.
I think it's cool with the music specifically, because you've got people that have, especially the OGs, that are, it's like, you defied the, hey, I'm just going to do, instead of just doing that, like, oh, I'm just going to do the art. I'm just the artist. I'm not the business person. But you defied that, and basically it's like, no, I'm the business, like the Jay-Z thing. I'm a businessman, like, you're a business. String's a business, and that, I think, is the most admirable thing, and especially that your early fans are like, oh, I'm here for the business. I'm here for like this whole journey, because there's going to be different arms that go here and there, and you're going to tap into a lot of different audiences because of the different forms of the business that you run, and people get behind that. So I'm glad we get to be one of those little, one of those early supporters where we're like, let's go, Rae.
Exciting to me.
Super cool. I love it. Well, I know we've got String's going to be headed out. She's got a hard stop in about 5 minutes. I don't want her 100% to miss out on Rae's second song, but I'm not done talking with Rae yet. So if we have to, I think, String, you will 100% be good to go if you need to drop out at any moment. But I do want to keep the conversation going for a few more minutes before we get into song number 2. But Rae, you dropped a collection, you minted out on that. You've got more stuff that's planned outside of NFTs on the business front and different things that you've got going. Is there going to be some traveling, some in real life events and stages and stuff like that? Can you tell us another one of the pieces of the puzzle?
Yes. So I feel like I've been traveling nonstop forever. Honestly, we finished recording the record in Mexico City in June. I came back to Seattle, which was technically my home base, for a little bit, and then went to New York for 3 weeks for the conference, did a show there, hosted an event there, did some work there, and then came back here. And now I'm like, just for a second, full-time DJing. But honestly, so I've done a lot of events, and I've worked in startups and like had this whole background that I've just kept very separate from my music. And now I get to bring it in, which is amazing. So in about a month, is the Seattle NFT conference. And I'm doing all the music programming for that.
Wow.
From inception to getting sponsors, to booking artists, to creating the panels, speaking on the panels, and singing. So really touching it all. And that's a lot of work. And I'm really excited about it because I love doing things that haven't been done before. This is the first year that Seattle is doing this conference. And so I lived in like Mexico and New York and all these places, and I've just come back to my hometown after many years out on the road. And I've always believed that Seattle we have this music legacy, and then we have all this Web 2 technology, but they never cross. And I think that an event like this is a way to bring everybody together around the same cause, which is music and musicians and NFTs. So that's really my main focus, and I'm putting a lot of energy into it, flying in some known musicians in the space, having some local musicians, and bringing in like Web 2 music institutions as well to get them onboarded. And then also in the midst of all this and getting ready for a lot of drops in September and October, and doing post-production on my record, I'm also still gigging like once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I'm sort of in this pocket of, like, I built up my whole live career and project in New York, and that's a very boots to the ground sort of thing. Like, you meet one booking agent, and then because you get this show, you get the next, and it's like just climbing up the ladder. And I had a lot of success there in terms of shows, and I toured, and then COVID happened. So it sort of broke that momentum. So I'm starting it here again on the West Coast, and the shows that I'm really focused on are like opening for big known artists that come through, because it's a great way to, make those connections beyond Seattle. So I've gotten a few wonderful opportunities to do that and to keep playing out. And
I love that.
It all sort of ties together, but it's a lot.
That is cool. Well, I tell you what, I want to get anything that you want to link up specifically. I can add to this video after the fact, but specifically I'll start with String. If people want to learn more about String on LinkedIn or on Twitter or Chubbiverse or any of the things, how can people get a hold of you, and how can they learn more about what you've got going on? And then I'm going to ask you the same thing, Rae.
We just launched a new feature where you can name your chubby friend or chubbycon. Have you named yours yet?
I logged in. I was like, ooh, I better talk to her first, and then I'm going to go do it.
Yeah, and then you have to get your kids to do it, because then they could add to the storyline. So we're developing our thesis on digital identity, and there's going to be some more cool stuff. So you should do that, Chris. That's an alpha. But if you I feel like a lot of people don't realize we can use the metadata to create, the blockchain. We don't. I think a lot of people just think it's images, but we're creating layers where we could create backstories now. Gary, you need to join, and Rae, you need to join as well.
Yeah, no, I'm going to. I actually have OpenSea up right now. I'm looking at the collection.
So you could name it. So you could write Rae Isla and then direct the we're planning to just make it super nuanced, right? Creating digital IDs and using the metadata to tell choose your own adventure or something along those lines. I just dropped an alpha. I don't think my tech person's gonna be happy. But that's what we're doing, because we're very I'm thankful that we have our tech person behind us, because he thinks about how do we make a very product, what we need to use the blockchain to do things that could carry our community story driven things. And we want to create that experience using the tools right now, because the 3D world is too clunky and there's no interoperability. But what we're doing is creating the pathway, and metadata is something that a lot of people don't really leverage properly. So if you want, check out the chubbiverse.com and check out the Twitter, because like we're very active on there. And we're even like we're also very active with other communities, and we're playing poker game on the 27th, and there's like a $10,000 prize pool. So you know, we need more artists, Rae. Hint, we need like some music already.
Tell them where they can find your animated GIFs, because that's something that I didn't ask you about, but it's so cool.
So we leverage the API, and we have about 255 GIFs. So if you like use on Twitter or like on Instagram or Facebook, and you write the word Chubbiverse or ChubbyCon, you're able to like react with it as well. And we have about 856 million views on Giphy right now. So we're already Web 2. People are using us in Web 2 already, and they don't even know it's a ChubbyCon.
Yep. I know. I always tag you guys. I'm like, I see they use a chubby corn. I'm like, they don't even know it's a chubby corn. Let me tell them.
Yeah. and by the way, I'm now the proud owner of Chubby Cat number 3486. He's got
Let's go.
He's got.
What do you go naming, Gary? What do you go naming?
I've got to figure it out, because he's got and I'll tell you, he's got a rainbow mohawk. And if you've ever seen my Twitter, I have a rainbow bull from the Bulls and Apes project. I own the rainbow bull, and I love that rainbow characteristic. So I just picked up a chubby cat because cats are my daughter's favorite pet. She loves cats, and so a little homage to her. And I got to sneak in the rainbow mohawk, so I'm super stoked. So,
well, like, let me send you some stickers to your kids, because, like, you know, that's something that I do.
That would be amazing.
Yes. I will send you a postal address. I won't stalk you, by the way. So.
That's okay. No, I appreciate it. But yeah, so Chubby Cat number 3486. So I am now a community member. So thank you for that.
I have to head off. I'll jump into another one. Chris and I have been trying to hang out for a while. It's like, but always have time for you, Chris. So, and
thank you.
Gary, lovely meeting you. Rae,
lovely meeting you. Thank you.
I'm gonna be following you on Twitter, so watch out. I'll be like spamming you, shilling you with like if you stickers of like chubbies.
Shill away.
Thank you, String.
I'll write you a theme song for the chubbies.
Thank you, String.
All right. Well, I definitely want to make sure that we plug all the things that you have coming up, Rae, as well. So whether that's an event or your collection, anything that you want, I'll get a list of that. I'm going to link it up below in this video and then on the social media stuff that we chop up from here. But where can people find you, just off the cuff?
Twitter is the best place, or you can Google Rae Isla and just find a slew of materials. But I think the best way to engage and to not have FOMO and to hear everything first is to sign up for, I call it my early supporters list. It's basically like a white list, but it's not project specific. So everyone who is on that list is like, yes, I want to, because there's so much noise. It's like, we need a centralized place. So, you know, you put in your ETH address and your email and a couple basic things, and then you'll get priority access. It's going to come with utility. Just like sign up. That's the best way. Instead of me sending 50 links.
Where do we find that at?
That's in my Twitter bio. And
Perfect.
I don't know if it's a pinned tweet right now, but it usually is, unless there's something more important to.
Letters from Rae Isla. I see it right here. Updates on new
That's
music.
That's actually my newsletter, but in my bio, like the actual bio link. That's
Nifty Music.
Yeah.
Nifty.music. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, that's great.
Cool.
Yeah. But
we will link that up for sure.
I have my daily Twitter space pretty soon. I want to drop so much alpha here. I was like, but I don't think I will. I guess, you know, I just wanted to say one thing, speaking to the like connecting Web 2 folks. I will drop this alpha, and nobody knows this other than my mom.
Nice.
But my big collection, because I'm all about stories and whatever, is going to involve these songs. It's also going to involve rocks, because I collect rocks. And for me, my rocks represent my memories. I mean, I pick up a rock and I know where I was, what I was feeling. And I can even remember like what song I wrote around that time that captures that same feeling. So I had to combine the two. And one of the things that is really important for me to bring in Web 2 is to bring in Web 2 or non-Web 3 people to collaborate on the project as a way of onboarding them and letting them actually see the impact of creating in this space. So I've onboarded a relatively well-known, famous geology influencer to be an advisor. And we are going to be releasing all this cool stuff about like rocks and minerals and like geography and just everything.
That's cool.
Geography and geology.
I love
And she's going to speak about the project to her. I think she has like 300,000 TikTok followers and 150,000 Instagram and all these other channels as a way of onboarding her audience to Web3 via an actual project that has, you know, cultural impact.
That is a really, really smart onboarding, like just strategy idea. That is great. I think that's smart.
Nobody knows.
Well, we know now, but you know what's really cool? You're talking about that, and my wife and her cousin are rock hounders. So
guys, there's a lot of us.
They go out, and as a matter of fact, I was just in Vegas, and they took an entire afternoon and went out to some old mining areas out by the dam, and went rock hounding and brought back buckets and buckets of rocks. My wife just bought her first tumbler, so she's going to be tumbling.
Oh my God, I want to talk to her.
Yep. Yes, my wife just bought her first tumbler, so it just got shipped to the house a few days ago, and she wants to start tumbling and cutting and doing stuff with rocks. So that is amazing that you talked about that, because that is like, I got to tell her, she's gonna be excited. Maybe she's watching. Cool.
So you can tell her I spent the weekend driving around the state of Oregon, going to local rock shops.
That's great.
And she'll know what kind of rocks are up here.
Yeah, she was just in Maine.
I'm gonna have to get the tumbler off the shelf. My kids, we were doing it for a while. I'm like, man, that was like the thing we should have been doing during COVID. What the heck was I thinking?
I bought a rock tumbler during COVID too.
That's cool.
It's this whole society. It's this whole group. Talk about community, right? There was a huge community around I don't know what you call them, rock hounders. You know, the minerals, all that stuff. It's amazing, and she tells me about it, and her cousin got her into it and follows all these influencers, which I'm wondering if she follows the influencer that you've partnered with, which is going to be really exciting to follow. But that's awesome. Onboarding, bringing in new community into the Web3 space and seeing how that interaction can work with this space is super cool.
Thank you for the alpha.
No, you're welcome. It's been really hard to keep in because, you know, Web3 is a movement and a suite of tools. But ultimately, like, would I want to create a project around my music and my rocks and collaboration? And like, I would do it anyway. But now we have like an even bigger reason to make it more impactful in that, like, we can bring people into Web3. So it was an easy sell to get somebody on board because she's like, yeah, I love rocks. I love music. Makes total sense to me, even though I don't totally understand, you know, the blockchain or whatever.
Right.
So true. Well, I know you got a jam. Are you going to play us out?
Let's play us out. And oh man, guys.
I would tell you to hang around after, like we normally tell the guests, but I know you got a space to run. I don't want them to go without you, so I just lost my light.
I'd love to. I did tell I have a co-host today, and I said, hey, I might start it, and you just start running it, which I literally might do. If you run over too much, but I know. Now that we're talking about rocks, we got to get your right.
Now you're here.
Yeah. We'll have to do this again when the collection is announced, and I can show you, you know, the artwork and all the stuff we've got planned.
Love it.
All right, I'm gonna close this out with a song that is released, and you can listen to the produced version of it, you know, anywhere, Google, and it's called "Lovely Lies." I've been sleeping on a pile of stones, slowly weakening in my backbone. Every morning I hear it creak. I guess time's wheel is spinning for me. My love sleeps in the same old bed. She sleeps right and I sleep left. When we go to dream at night, both our heads tell lovely lies. So I close my eyes to revel in those lovely, lovely lies. La 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 la. Lovely lies. Married young at 23, I always feared she'd bury me. She promised that we'd grow, be the protectors of each other's bones. If there's just one thing I know, it's that the only honest thing is hope. I see the future in her eyes, and I believe her lies. My eyes revel in those lovely, lovely eyes. La 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 la. Lovely lies. Living life. This is where I get you guys singing along. La 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 la. Nice.
Yay!
Love
I was
it.
on mute. Darn it. Sorry.
Oh, I can see this. I can see this in real life, like everybody just going after it in the audience.
It's the
that's
moment.
cool.
That's the live rendition where we repeat the hook and everybody gets going. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
So cool.
Rae, you're the best. Thank you for hanging out with us. I appreciate you big time, and
Thank you.
And we will have you back, 100%.
I would love
right.
to, and I will be in the next Bulls and Apes Twitter space, so I can finally, onboard myself. It's overdue.
You can reach out anytime.
Perfect.
All
Yes,
right.
thank you
Well,
so
enjoy
much.
your space. I will. Yeah, we'll be chatting up, and we'll link all your stuff below, and we'll keep it going. All right.
Sounds good. See ya
All
in
right.
another wing of the metaverse.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.